Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show, How We Grow. This is your essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business. With advice and insights from the best in the biz, I'm your host, Lynell Gordon. Well, Jessica Gillingham, thank you so much for coming and being a part of How We Grow the Vacation Rental Show. We want to talk today about whatever you're passionate about. That's really how I don't like to lead my guests. I like them to lead me. But you mentioned something that caught my ear. You said, I would love to talk about reputation. So let's talk about reputation. You're an expert. Tell us what you do and what your field is.
So I run an agency called Abode Worldwide, and we're a public relations agency, and we're very specialist in the types of companies and the sectors that we work in. So we work predominantly in the short-term rental sector, but we also work in hotel and hospitality and multifamily. And we work with a lot of the tech companies in the space. So most of the big ones that you know the names of, we work with. But we also work with large enterprise operators and an association as well. So what we do and what my team does is we raise the profiles, help to build the reputation, help to build brand trust in companies that are working within the short-term rental sector.
What's the top thing that vacation rental managers can do to help their reputation?
So I think for vacation rental managers, it's all about, firstly, if you don't provide good service and have a good product, it's not about that. You have to have that first. Like, that's fundamental. You've got to provide a good experience for your guests, but also your owners, and actually also your other stakeholders. So maybe that's your team as well, or the community in which you're operating in. So you've got to be doing everything the right way. So it's not about plastering over cracks. It's about making sure that you're doing everything right anyway, but then being able to tell your story and build that reputation. And for many managers, especially today, like in certain locations where regulations, legislation, community pressure, sort of bad reputation of short-term rentals, kind of, we know what's happening out there. There's, often short-term rentals are seen as the bad guys. So it's really important for managers to be able to kind of tell a positive story, not a fake story, but talk about the positives about what they're bringing to their community or to their owners or to their guests. So it's really getting quite clear on what the story is of their business, of the experience that they're providing. So there's whole loads of nuances to it, but really, firstly, it's getting that foundations right. So doing good business, doing good work, but then also being able to kind of formulate your narrative and your story about the benefits that you're bringing to your community, your guests, your owners.
So I have a narrative. Okay, I do XYZ and I do it very well. And we're really happy to support the community by doing XYZ. All right, so I've got my narrative. Now what?
So we mostly work with companies that are looking at media relations. So they might be looking at getting press stories about what they're doing. So it might be that they're writing thought leadership articles about the sector and what their specialty is. I mean, Abode works predominantly with tech companies. So we might work with CEOs of tech companies rather than individual kind of property managers or manager owners. So it is a slightly different thing that we would do. But I think if you're doing, you start with where are your guests hanging out? Where are the channels that are influencing them? It might be that it is social media, or it might be that it's through influencers that they're getting their information from. So it really depends on where your audience is hanging out, would be where you might be telling the story of your company.
So I guess for most of us in property management, for managers, I'm trying to think about how to put that into realistic terms for us and how that could work. I mean, I could see us writing articles, becoming the trusted source for,
Exactly.
for like even news in the area, letting them know anytime there's a short-term rental story, I'm the expert and I'm the person to talk to. That would be interesting. I don't know. I mean, that would certainly increase reputation. Absolutely, it would.
Absolutely.
I don't know that it would go to bottom line cash flow to me. I mean, eventually it would, depending how big it got. But That's a huge stretch. Whatever type of things do property managers, do you think they could look at for increasing their reputation?
So I'm just going to go back to the bottom line question that you pointed there, and that's exactly what a property manager could do, by the way, is be the expert in short-term
Yes.
rentals in their sector. So I think you said you're in, was it South Carolina that you're in right now? So any kind of any commentary that there might be about short-term rentals, or even doing like what you're doing, a podcast, any manager who wants to grow their reputation could start a podcast, or could start a weekly newsletter, or could do a column in the local press. And when you say it doesn't kind of impact the bottom line over time, if their plan is to grow their inventory and be the trusted source for owners within the area that they are, and they're looking to get more properties and get more owners to build trust in them, that's a kind of way of doing it. You're a known entity rather than just another property manager in the area. You're the trusted source. So that is something to be really, it's a really powerful, and it takes time rather than funds
It does
to do
take
that
time.
yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the other thing, guys, another way to get this, think about it. Who are the most trusted sources that you can think of right now in the industry? Most of them, I would say most of them, from conferences you've been to. You've heard them speak, or you've heard them, they're the chair of a committee. They actually are a part of the management association that is either statewide or nationwide. So guys, that's a real good reason to join Vacation Rental Managers Association, or even, like the Florida FVRMA that they have, the ones that we have local ones in North Carolina. We have ones, I've been to some of the local ones up north too. So maybe that would be a great way. The other thing I can think about when you talk about becoming the expert. So starting a podcast, it's not always easy. And who is your audience? And, especially as a vacation rental manager, there are those out there that are quite successful. Steve Milo has one. And there are a lot of others. He just happens to be the first one I thought of. What other types of things do you recommend, Jessica, for property managers to do?
So definitely speaking at conferences, and often at conferences, the conference organizers find it quite difficult to get property manager speakers. Like the vendors all are really keen to speak, of course they are, but because they've got a reason to. But property managers are sharing their knowledge for altruistic reasons, with their peers. So often, conferences will be really keen to have property managers speak. So that's a great way. Another way is entering awards. So, VRMA have some of their awards. The shorties we've got coming up in April, which covers the vacation rental sphere, or local awards, like entering local awards. The other thing is partnering with other businesses, other tourism related businesses in the local area that you're in. So doing things in partnership, perhaps with hotels, or with activities and attractions that are locally, or some of the local shopping outlets and things. So finding ways to work with peers that aren't actually other property managers, but are other businesses where you've got a vested interest together to bring and to serve tourists that come to the area. But in my experience, most property managers, they've got their guests. The guests isn't really the hard bit. Often it's the owners. So it's about keeping and attracting and retaining owners is usually the way that you would need to kind of be really thinking about your reputation beyond just the word of mouth referrals that you might get.
Built by property managers for property managers. Streamline is a powerful software that gives managers enterprise-level capabilities to drive more revenue and improve operational efficiency. Migrating to Streamline allows property managers to gain functionality while reducing the need for multiple vendors, improving flow by logging into a single system and reducing redundant technology costs. With Streamline, property managers achieve revenue lifts by leveraging our fully fledged communication center, reservations quoting system, revenue management tools, homeowner acquisition CRM, and powerful direct OTA connections. Streamline also has industry-leading trust accounting and report capabilities to give you clarity in an overall company performance. Learn more about Streamline Vacation Rental Software at streamlinevrs.com.
That is excellent advice. It really is. There was a property manager I spoke to recently who sends out monthly reporting to his owners, and he does it in an authoritative way, saying, here's what's happening in the market, and here's what we're doing. And that way, or even here's not what we're doing, even if he doesn't do that, letting people know what's happening. And in that way, guys, when you do that, your owner is not surprised when you say, hey, we need to run a special, because you already told them 3 months ago that the market is soft and that you're not having as much demand. So becoming the expert in your area, that's excellent advice. Another thing that you might consider doing is writing, like if you write that for your homeowners, you might consider the fact that VRMA would love to have your input on what's happening in your market. And they do newsletters monthly as well. And they would love to have a volunteer to write, articles for their magazine that they put out. And I'm sure you guys have a lot more ideas than I do on that. Anybody listening has probably got a dozen more than I do, but that's just the first thing I can think about. If you had other advice, Jessica, to give to property managers, what would it be?
I think that it's about being able to provide interesting information, really, and being able to kind of decimate it. The other one, actually, though, is communicating. And you touched on that about that property manager that you saying, once a month he writes to all his owners, so actually providing that information and communicating regularly is really important. But if I go back to what we do with some of our clients, the number one thing that we do in any engagement at the beginning of anything that we do is we try to figure out the why. So and it's same with this. Why would a property manager be needing to look at his or her reputation? Why would they want to build some media relations? Maybe there isn't a reason, but it's looking at, and it might be like it might be because we can see legislation coming down the road, and we want to make sure that we've got, we've got research behind us. We want to make sure we've got some gravitas behind us. We want to make sure we've got some authority behind us. It could be that. Could be that talent is an issue. Finding and competing with the right talent might be what your why is. And it might be that, okay, well, if we're kind of being spoken about and written about, and we're a real brand out there, we might be more likely to be able to get the talent than the company down the road as an attractive place to work, as an employer of choice. So it's about employer branding as well. And it could be about churn, about churn of property owners, that kind of thing. Or it might be about, if you're part of a local association and you don't have enough members because the property managers aren't really invested in the local association, they could use PR to try and build up, getting other members to be part of an association, and showing why it's an attractive option, showing why it's important for lobbying, etc. So the main thing really is about finding out the why. What's the business objective of why you would do anything, whether it's content marketing, PR, digital marketing, whatever, SEO, what is the actual reason why?
Well, I really appreciate that. Let me ask you this, because normally I interview property managers, and I always ask them for their favorite story for either guests or owners. What is your favorite story for your clients? Give me an interesting story or something that you find inspiring, or something that's happened in your business.
So I think that in terms of what I've seen, so I've been in this space for 7 years, 8 years, and I've seen, we work for tech companies, like it's completely changed the way that the technology, the growth in all the vendors. And we worked with companies that are huge now when they were just sort of 2, 3, 4 people. So seeing that innovation and growth has been really inspiring. We've been lucky enough to work with some of the vendors that have had huge amounts of funding and very successful investment. So that's been really interesting, going through that journey and helping them to communicate that and do all the kind of the PR around that kind of thing. The other thing is that I am lucky enough to be on lots of committees, like you talked about, be on committees. So I'm on a couple of Verma committees. I'm on various committees in Europe around, the conferences, so helping to bring people together for various conferences and things. So I think really the bits that I'm most excited about is the growth that we've seen in the innovation. So not just on the tech side, but also the property manager side. There are so many really engaged, vibrant property managers, and I love to see them grow and change and things like that, because I obviously make sure I know who our customers are, who are the property managers.
Well, let me ask you this. If someone is dealing with an issue where they need to work on their reputation, would you be willing to talk to them and help them? Because most of the time
Absolutely.
we try to create mentors on this show. And I know this is
Yeah.
your business, but if someone is having a question and they're like, I really just need to bounce this off someone, how could they reach you?
So they absolutely, and I will just say on mentors, over my whole career, the amount of people that have given me advice, guidance, just because I've asked and just because they've given, I wouldn't be where I was today without that kind of support that we have. So I'm always 100% happy to help people or share ideas. And the best way to contact me is either on email, which is jessica@abodeworldwide.com, or I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm also at, various conferences. I'm always at the Verma International, the Verma Europe, and various other conferences that are around. And I like to think I'm relatively approachable.
Jessica, you're very approachable. You are so kind and nice. Thank you so much for taking time to share good, concrete ideas that people can use to increase their reputation in their business. And I really do appreciate your time and your offer for being a mentor. Guys, take her up on it if you have any questions or any ideas on how you can take what Jessica's talked about today and apply it to what you do. Reach out. That's what we're here for, guys. We should be there for one another. So thanks, Jessica, very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
This episode of How We Grow is brought to you by Streamline. To find out more about how Streamline can help grow your vacation rental business, visit streamlinevrs.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.